Hi everybody, my name is Fatima and I am the owner of Project Instigate. I'm a learning strategist and I help people with their leadership, learning, and personal development skills. My mission in life to help create leaders so people can, by empowering and inspiring people to create the positive changes in their lives and their community and discover their values and be able to live a successful life and achieve success living in line with those values. I am also here with Rachel today. She is our guest. Rachel, you want to wave at everybody? I want to introduce to you guys Rachel Doucette. Rachel Doucette is a communications and engagement consultant. She leads a provincial peer counseling organization, and she's an accomplished listener, communicator, and facilitator, and a problem solver. So without further ado, I give the floor to Rachel.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm just getting used to Zoom. I've done Skype and such. So I'm getting a nice tutorial of how to do things and what not to do here. I'm from Chilliwack, BC. I am an empowerment consultant. And basically what that means is I just empower people with their personal and professional goals. Empowerment is basically shining the tools that people already have, but allowing them to see that they have them. So putting some light on some tools that they already have and engaging them with their community and other people that might have tools to help them.
Awesome, thank you. And so let's dive right into it. Let's talk about human connection. Talk to us about human connection, why it's important, how does your work tie into it? So enlighten us with your knowledge on human connection.
Okay, well, this is a good one. Growing up, I've lived in all different kind of scenarios in my life, so I've got to know a lot of different kind of people. And in knowing so many people, I've got to learn different techniques and different feelings and thoughts that people share. And so they've actually, in getting to know them, I've got to learn a lot. I'm also a communication director for a local greenhouse. And part of my job is just building the team and sharing information and equipping our employees on how to know the business better, how to put themselves in the business better. So all those kind of communication things that I get to deal, it's all with people. And really, we're just learning together with everything I do.
So how does, so tell us a little bit about just human connection in itself, as in, why is what is human connection? So if you were to explain to us, what is human connection? How do you explain that?
Human connection is basically in our DNA. It's a need that all of us have to be a part of a community, to belong, to feel like our life is significant, to feel a part of something. And for humans, that's what we're made to do, is to connect. How do we connect? We find that need in other people, and we feel that need in other people, and then ultimately that's how we're connecting. So we're just connecting all our little human needs, energy levels together.
I think what you say about a human connection being on, like, in our DNA, I that really resonates with me, because we talk about how, for example, like there's different ways of communicating. So you will have, like, for example, babies, right? They can't survive without human touch, right? There's verbal communication, there's body language. There's also, just being able to, social media is a big one right now. So it's, I'm going to say the internet is still pretty new to us. It's not that old, right? And so to find this other way to communicate, where you can't see the person and you can't hear the person, and you're texting them through these devices, it's also fairly new to us. So it's, it's created a whole new world. And then with our current pandemic, it's become even more important for us to be able to communicate on a deeper level. And I'm finding that, more and more we have to, like, our communications were becoming so shallow in the depth of how we were speaking. So it's like, one example that I can give is, for example, if someone asks, how are you? And most of the time that answer was fine, I'm good, even if people aren't good, right? But, now when someone asks how someone's doing, they're a lot more genuine, don't you think?
Yeah, so that's the connection piece, right? We're talking about communication. We communicate on a day-to-day basis through so many different devices. That's a tool. Communication is a tool. Connection is the energy, it's the feelings that we're using to connect. And communication is a huge part of that, because if we communicate with bad feelings, then we're going to make a bad connection. If we communicate with good feelings, empathy and compassion, then we're going to have good communication and good connection. So you're right, we're communicating all the time, but it's a connection is much deeper, like you
So,
said.
if are you able to give us an example of, the connections that you mentioned?
The connection is not just plug in your phone and Bluetooth your earbuds to your phone, right? Some people just think that's connection, but
Hmm.
connection comes on a deeper level. It is really all about our vibe. And I saw someone have a sign earlier, good vibes only. She wants to make good connections. That's what that's saying to me. She wants good connections. So if we have bad vibes, we're going to make bad connections. If we have good vibes, we're going to make good connections.
And how does authenticity play in all of this? How do you stay authentic in these communications, and how much of a role does it play?
Yeah, see, some people think, well, I'm not a connector. I don't really even like people. It's not part of my workload. I wouldn't be needing to connect. But ultimately, we all have the ability to build deep human connection. But it's a matter of how bad we want it. So if we have, say, for example, we have a car and it's not operating at its best, what would we do? We'd probably take it to the garage and have maintenance done on it. Do monthly checks, monthly cleaning it and vacuuming it and sparkling it up. Well, that's kind of like how we need to treat each other if we want to make good connections. We have to maintain our relationship
Mhm.
and give them what they need to grow.
I think one of the things you mentioned that was really interesting to me was how you said, people said, I'm not much of a connector. I don't really, connect with other people. And I do hear that. And I find that right now with what we're dealing with, there's also a whole new aspect of connection. It's, a lot of people are learning to connect with themselves and
Yeah.
just being able to hear themselves. And for the first time in a while, I think a lot of people are starting to get in tune with, their own body and their own needs. Like, do I want more sleep right now? Do I want this right now? When am I hungry? Like, we're being a lot more mindful of our connection with ourselves. And
Hmm.
I think that's really interesting as well.
Yeah, for the most part. And just bringing this COVID and this crisis situation up, that's exactly how I would look at this as a lesson for all of us in our human nature. How are we going to respond to this?
Mhm.
Yeah, there's some bad things about it, but if you look around, what we're actually finding is that people are rising up. They rise up to connect, to help take care of each other, to show compassion, and to help each other and fill each other's needs. Once we're feeling each other's needs, and we see this all over the TV and all over social media, we're now connected to that because, again, that's based on feeling and energy that we're putting out, that we're connecting to. So we could look at crisis as a bad thing, but we can also look at it as an opportunity for us to evolve as humans and connect like we're supposed to.
So, do you think the way we are connecting is evolving then?
I think that when circumstances happen as this one has, people rise up because we want to. It is really a part of who we are, ultimately. And it's when we aren't that we start to feel withdrawn from community. We feel depressed. We feel anxiety. We feel all these feelings of disconnect because we're not actually connected. We're not connected to ourselves. We're not connected to our surroundings, our nature. We're not connecting to the people that are in our lives. And then that can cause illnesses. And when we're connecting, we feel more whole. We feel more combined.
So I have some group chat here. Okay, so let me just unmute you. I'm not sure it's where did we lose Tamara? Oh no, there she is. I am actually, for some reason, I'm not seeing your name on the side, but I'll unmute you from here. Right, go ahead. Tamara, go ahead. You can speak.
I can? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
So for me, what I've noticed, and especially like the more like we've been in quarantine, it's just, you know, finding the time to communicate with other people, you know, not feeling so like losing that social disconnect. So trying to find those moments as well, because sometimes you want to communicate and there are times it's just like you don't want to disturb because everybody's going through a stressful time. So it's kind of like a two-way sword sometimes, you feel like? At least for me, that's what I've noticed.
Yeah, definitely. And you, Tamara, you were mentioning that, you know, there's a lot going on right now. Maybe, you know, people aren't having the time to make connections, like actually attempting to connect with people. Mm-hmm. But I don't know about you, but I've connected with someone just in the superstore when walking by, and they just stop and say, "Oh, I love that shirt on you," and they don't even know me. You know, that's an emotional connection right there. And I'm thinking about them probably even weeks later, thinking, "Wow, they really touched my life. They really connected to me." You know, and so it can honestly take a second to connect. Mm-hmm. And so when we realize that, then there's an opportunity to say, okay, how am I going to connect? How am I connecting? How do I appear to connect to other people? Maybe even asking people that question, like, is what I'm saying to you connecting to you? Am I making sense? Am I hitting your feelings? Am I hitting the spot? Getting that feedback from other people will definitely allow us to understand how we're connecting. And we may be trying even, and then we realize that they're not getting that message. So, you know, communication is a big part, and time is, but honestly, it can happen in a second. It's how we're doing that, how we're connecting with them, how we're offering that peace.
Being somebody, because, you know, it's that social distancing. You don't want to risk going out and catching corona. You want to find new options. So hearing about Zoom and Kristen inviting me was like a whole new thing, and I'm like, I was intimidated actually to try this, but it's actually working out quite well. So I'm glad I did.
I'm glad I got to meet you today, Tamara. It's good.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. I absolutely love that. Like when we are saying words to other people, is it like genuinely emotionally connecting with them? Is it really, you know, resonating with them? Is it thinking with them? Like, are we really hearing them? You know, we talk about, and we'll come back to this a little bit later too, but, you know, let's talk about, you know, active listening, right? Are you listening to just hear, or are you actually listening to understand? Right? You know, when you're, you know, listening to someone speak, are you already thinking about, you know, what you're going to say next, or are you just listening with curiosity about, I wonder what they're going to say. I wonder what they're feeling right now. Sometimes what people say doesn't really connect with their feelings either. What do you think?
Yeah.
I'm more of the listening type in that regard, because I'm kind of curious of different aspects of a person's opinion. So it's just trying to retain what I learn, really, for the most part. That way I learn myself, you know, because everybody's different. Right?
Absolutely, you got it, Tamara. It's getting to know one another that's going to build that connection. If somebody, right now we can't go anywhere, but you know how many neighbors of mine that I've called to say, hey, you know, I'm just checking up on you, and they're like, wow, you know, I just drop a flower off at their door and I run away.
Okay, so go ahead, introduce yourself. We're having
the
technical
connection
difficulties with Tamara's microphone and Smith's microphone.
Just that
Well, that's
little
fine. I
moments
also have paint on
that
my
I put
hands, so I'll
aside.
do my
Now
introduction
they're
and
connected.
go wash the paint
That's
off
so
of my
nice,
hands.
actually.
My
You know,
name is
people
Ashley Angeline
genuinely
Kamar. I'm
checking on
from
people.
Edmonton. Is there
That is
something
really
specific
nice,
we
and
had to
that
say, or
wasn't
just a
something
little
that
bit
was
about
happening
us?
before. We were
Just
so
tell
us
where you're
busy
joining in
in
from
our
and your
own
name.
little
Yeah.
world,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
all
So
of a
I'm
sudden
joining
it's
in
like
from Edmonton,
we're
Alberta.
stepping back and
And my
seeing,
name's
okay, well, you know, there's
Thank
other
you.
lives here
And
too,
I
and
will
it's
just
like
share my screen
we're
for a
checking
second
in on
here so you
people, we're
guys can
genuinely
see.
caring about,
Oops, those are
you
my
know, there's,
questions.
you know, definitely
But
a little
I'm
bit of
gonna do
negativity on
this.
the internet for
Where is
sure,
it gonna
but I'm
change?
definitely also seeing people put aside their differences and, you know, just, you know, come in and be a community and take care of each other. I don't care what your political views are. Really don't care what your, you know, opinions are on this controversial topic or that topic. You know, I don't really care what, you know, you know, a lot of these things that tend to divide us, we are putting those aside and we're going, you know, are you okay? Like, are you really okay as a human being, like human to human? Are you okay? And I'm not sure I've ever seen that on such a deep level, like really asking people how they are and really meaning it. I feel like the way we may be communicating may be evolving, but we may actually be going backwards in terms of communicating because we're regaining a level of communication that we had lost, as you know, over time through evolution. I know.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's interesting because I mean, my kids, they know that I love them, but one thing I'm guilty of every once in a while is getting too busy in my phone, trying to hurry up and send that last email so I can end the night, have dinner with them, and then we can hang out and I can hear their stories. But that seems to be the time when they come walking in the room, Mom, this is what's going on with school, and I'm like, okay, so what's going on? What's okay? And then I stop and I realize by looking over at them and watching how their stance is that they must not feel like they're being heard. They must not feel like they're important enough for me to want to stop what I'm doing here to listen to them. So I constantly have to be subconscious of this. Even as I teach communications, I constantly throughout the day have to reiterate like what is communicating right now. How am I connecting? So with my kids, you know, putting down the phone and giving them complete eye contact and asking them questions about what they're trying to explain is now going to allow them to feel like they're heard. They're going to walk away feeling fulfilled. Maybe we resolved something that they were having issues with, um, or I can continue working on my phone and give them half half my attention. They might walk away feeling half heard, and then how are they going to respond now into their community the way that I just responded to them?
So we're setting an example for, you know, communication, for, you know, not only the next generation, but also we're forced to evaluate how we're connecting with people. We're forced to, you know, sort of assess because we're just, you know, stuck in one house with the people we live in, and, you know, we're seeing them more often than we normally would, and we're learning new things about them, but we're also learning about how our actions and how we connect is actually impacting them, you know, and how is it impacting them emotionally, how is it impacting them psychologically, or, you know, even, you know, physical and emotional aren't two different things, they are connected on a deeper level. Yeah, so definitely. So actually, you know what I'm curious about, Rachel, I want to talk to you about your consulting, and how did you get into consulting in terms of communication and engagement? What inspired you to become an expert on communication?
Well, like I mentioned before, I've met a lot of people along my life, and that was the feedback that I got from everybody was, wow, you really helped out. You really offered some insight here so I could go back to my husband or my kids or you know, helping them building their marketing campaigns, helping them reach their clients through a deeper relationship. So then I figured, you know what, I'm helping everybody. Why not get paid to do it? So I took my gift, my skill that I had, and helped to contribute it to my community. So that's how that came about, and I love it. It takes a lot. I know I've had to learn a lot of patience. I've had to learn a lot of understanding, not just with my clients and the people that they're working with, but also myself. I've had to grow up a lot within myself. I've had to learn to understand and be aware of myself, mainly, to be able to do what I do with people.
Awesome. So tell me this, what is the most common question or communication related problem that often comes to you?
Well, it's all in miscommunication. Some people will come to me and say, on a relationship level, personally, I thought I was helping this person, but they don't seem to think that I'm helping them. And like a perfect example is the differences between man and woman. And I remember reading John Gray's book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, and I think he said the most important thing ever. And he said, Mars, when you go to Venus, don't go in. Stand at the door and wait for her to come out to play. Because if you try to go in and you don't understand them, you're going to get all chaotic, and everything that you think you're trying to communicate to them, there's no communication, there's different language. So learning how to speak to people through their language, through their experience, through their perspective is going to help you get a deeper understanding of who they are, whether it be your clients or people you're trying to relate to that you're more familiar with. You have to get to know them and how they're receiving your communication and what they want from you, what need they have that you can help fulfill to build that connection.
So what about triggers? I know a lot of people now suffer with a lot of anxiety, or, if someone has had any kind of bad experience or really traumatic experience, sometimes people don't even know what their own triggers are. So what do you suggest that a person should do if they notice that, oh, looks like I said something that was a trigger for this person?
One thing that I always recommend, and I also do myself, is I take a lot of notes. So if you want to get to know people, ask them questions. What's your favorite flower? And when I say this, what do you hear? When I'm talking to my kids, okay, do this, this, and that, and this is going to happen, and they're rolling their head, I'm like, okay, now, tell me what you just heard. Because they may have heard something totally different. And by asking them what they heard will allow me to understand how to communicate with them further.
I love that. Ask them to tell me what they heard. I love that because they may have totally heard something different. I love that. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, so actually let's dive into peer counseling program now. I know you're the president of one of the provincial peer counseling organizations. Tell us what it is, what it does. I know you mentioned a little bit towards the start as well, but talk to us a little bit more about what it is, and then let's talk about the peer counseling program in itself.
Sure. I work with an organization, the Senior Peer Counselors of BC, and there's 14 different agencies throughout BC. The program that we offer isolated and lonely and depressed seniors. So we train volunteers to learn to listen and empower older adults. So those are our target clients, our target friends, because we found that there's a large majority of older adults that are facing isolation and loneliness, and that doesn't always mean that they're alone. They could have loved ones around them, they could have a husband or a wife, there could be some family divisions, things going on, maybe they're going through something as they age. There's a lot of things, a lot of loss and a lot of anxiety and changes happening on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes that can just leave you feeling lonely and depressed. So we train our volunteers to go in with great communication skills and problem-solving peer helper model. So we work with them and show them different options and insight and allow them to kind of come to their own conclusions and their own self on their different matters as they age.
And how many people do you usually have in this peer counseling program?
Well, in our agency right now on a provincial level, we have about 800 volunteers throughout BC that offer one-on-one time to go in and work with seniors and listen and help seniors.
So this peer counseling program, is it happening in multiple different municipalities? Is it just in Chilliwack?
No, there's throughout BC, spcbc.ca, there'll be a whole directory of where the program is offered. We're always looking for volunteers to come and take a communication course. It's about 40 hours of communication and human connection development program that we have. It originally was offered in the University of Victoria as a credited course. They actually removed that and started a whole program because they saw the benefits of that for older adults. So since the early 80s, it has now grown into a large provincial program. So we offer it at 14 different locations throughout BC, and we're always extending our program as well. And we're always open to self-referrals. Sometimes we get Fraser's Health or coastal health, mental health, people that reach out to us with different clients that they have, and we work with them and
And so what kind of, so let's talk about the participants themselves of the peer counseling. So going through this program, from the start to finish, what kind of a transformation do you see within the participants who are taking this peer support program?
Oh, well, now that I've been a trainer for 3 years, I can see what I've got out of it. I never knew I liked to teach, and that's something that I realized. The whole purpose of training our volunteers is just really using, again, everyone else's unique gift. We know and understand that these people that are coming to take the course are probably connectors, and they are very compassionate human beings. Maybe they've gone through some isolation, loneliness for themselves, and they care about other people because they know how it feels. So they already have that empathy piece. We're there building them and giving them the communication skills to really lighten the abilities they already have. And a lot of people that come there realize, wow, I didn't know I had it. As they start to learn the course and they establish themselves, they know that's what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of our volunteers that come there, because they're coming from a place of, I can only imagine what it feels because I've gone through enough feelings on my own, I wish I had this. So they go and become a volunteer peer counselor, and they come out being more aware of themselves, because a lot of what our training group is to do is, we know you're here for a reason, you like to do this already, we're going to teach you how to communicate better with tools and take care of yourself while you're taking care of other people. Because that's the biggest thing when we're communicating with other people and we're trying to connect with other people, we have to be managing how we feel, how we're triggered, how being self-aware of where we're at when we're doing this. And in order to reach other people, we have to know ourselves first. We can't teach other people unless we know the program, right?
That sounds amazing. That sounds like an amazing program, and I'm so glad that we have that, because I work in homeless prevention industry, and unfortunately homelessness in our seniors is going through the roof, and unfortunately at that age they've lost a lot of social bonds. They're not connected with their families, they're not connected with their friends, and we're seeing that we have this gap in our society right now where we have seniors get to an age where they've lost all these supports, but there aren't enough services that are available to help them. So now the shelters and the transition houses and other support services that are traditionally, and I'm speaking in specific, I'm speaking specifically for more high need seniors who have a higher a need for support, mental health services, medical services, things like that. And they, so now a lot of shelters, transition houses, a lot of local organizations that provide supportive housing, they're taking in these seniors who have absolutely nowhere else to go, and then they take them in, and then there's nowhere to move them on to because there's nothing else available. Meanwhile, they don't have the training, the tools, the equipment. When I say equipment, I mean like just something like a peer counseling program, like the individuals, the workers being equipped. They don't have, they're not equipped to deal with these situations, and they don't have the training, the experience, or the specialization in dealing with necessarily this demographic or especially high need individuals. But they're taking them because there's nowhere to go, but then they can't move them on anywhere because there's nowhere to go. So we're seeing like places that have a maximum of 2 week stay, maximum 30 days stay. They are housing seniors for as little as 6 months at least, while they're trying to figure out where to send them. So I think this program is absolutely incredible. Do you guys also offer this training to organizations, or is it just available directly through this and individuals can just go take it?
Mainly based on individual, one-on-one, but you're absolutely right. It's hard to work with a different clientele that we're not familiar with, and you speak a lot about maybe not having the right tools. Yeah, there's a guided communication grid that we can use to help people get from A to B. But I think the most important thing to remember, and it goes all back to empathy, empathizing with one another and trying to understand, like, if we're in that position, how would we feel? Like, really think about it. And sometimes I like to test that out, even if I have someone working with me and they're in this predicament, I'm like, I wonder what this person feels like. I'm going to try to have a deficit of some sort in my life right now just to try to figure out, is this how you feel? So, because I'm curious how this person is feeling, where their experience has led them, how they view the world. Like, their worldview is really important, because then that's going to allow me to understand them better and help equip them with the tools that they need to get out. But it sounds like to me that you're dealing with maybe extreme vulnerable seniors that really can't do much for themselves. Yeah, so that has a whole array of things there. But in the midst of all that chaos that might be going on in that person's life, that deep connection part is going to be extremely important. So even someone just taking time to sit down and say, what were you when you were growing up? Like, I want to know you. How was your life? How's your life been? Like, if you were to write a novel with this person to find out more about them, imagine how they would feel knowing that someone wants to take the time to get to know them. That'll help equip them themselves to probably be more motivated and able to work through a lot of their problems alone. Never mind with the help that they get from agencies like you.
Thank you for that, Rachel. Yeah, I can only imagine the level of personal growth that individuals going through your program would go through, and how programs like this, they're not just it may be targeted to seniors, but at the end of the day, you are learning how to communicate. And one of the things I notice is people will often take something that let's say there's a course or a program or a seminar, and they'll look at the topic or they'll look at what the speaker's saying, and immediately they'll decide, that's not for me. It doesn't really relate to me. But the thing is, not everything is going to directly in every way relate to you. We have to take things that we can get out of it and just leave things that don't resonate with us. But a program like this is so amazing because the skills are so transferable. Like whether you're trying to communicate with your spouse, whether you're trying to communicate with your friends, your family, your kids, seniors, teenagers, whatever. I can imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but I can only imagine like overall your communication levels would go significantly higher, and this kind of skill would be applicable to not only you improving your communication skills, but also being able to better communicate with those around you.
Absolutely, you've got it right. And the key is that you want to engage with this knowledge and this wisdom out there, because you're going to get more out of it. And then in knowing more and understanding more, your relationships will get better, your professional avenues will get better. And that's exactly what happened with me 11 years ago when I was feeling my own depression, and I was going to be a single mom of 5 kids. And I said, oh God, what do I do now? And I felt he was telling me to focus on other people. The next morning when I opened up the paper and said, we're looking for volunteers, that's where it started with me. And I took that communication course, and it was a self-help course, I felt, because it helped me. It gave me the communication tools that I needed to help my kids and listen to them as we were going through the divorce all together. It wasn't just me and dad divorcing, it was everyone going through it. And so having these communication tools really helped my family, not just myself. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you gotta want to do it. You gotta want to learn.
But I have a question, like, so, and you know what, I feel like this was sort of my end thought-provoking question, but it feels like we have in many ways covered it. But if you wanted to shed light on it on a different angle, you could. But it's about, how do you see eye to eye with someone you completely disagree with? It seems like our society, we take everything and well, it starts with confirmation bias with Google and the internet, right? Internet algorithm is designed to show us what we want to see, what we already believe in, what we already follow. And so if someone says, oh, I researched this issue, I know all about it, well, you like that is no longer, it's like you really have to look at how to do research ethically, because most people, if you're just Google searching stuff, you're only going to get what you want to see, or what you've seen in the past, or what you already believe in, because they have a blueprint of you on the internet, on their algorithm. And so when these issues come up, whether it's social distancing or physical distancing, or other kind of topics, let's say election times, there's like politics happening, and or even more day-to-day stuff, people seem to very easily get polarized, and things get very heated, because internet, again, it's not full communication. Body language is 80% communication. And so it's like that's not present there. How what's your recommendation around being able to see eye to eye with the people that you really strongly disagree with, and just being able to just step back and understanding and becoming comfortable with the fact that different people see things through different lenses?
Well, there you said it. We have to, as human beings, understand that we're going to all have a different experience in life. Even if we're taught the exact same thing, 2 different people will take 2 different things out of it based on who they are, how they've lived, their worldview, the things that they've experienced in their life. And so when we're looking at differences, and it's hard to do because we're so ingrained with how we believe, and the belief system is the most powerful system ever created. So when we believe something that strong and someone else is designed to be the polar opposite, it's going to cause conflict sometimes. By understanding that, first of all, that we're going to have differences. Okay, if we were all the same, I can only imagine how boring it would be. I don't know. If everybody was like me, I'd probably get sick of me. So understanding that we all are different for a reason. And if there's something that really just rubs you the wrong way, and it's like, you know what, maybe it's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and it might not even be that good. But the biggest key I would suggest to do is get to understand their why. Looking at it not from oh, I don't believe that, let's shut the door right now. Maybe offering them okay, I don't believe that, but I'm curious why you believe that. Can you explain to me more? And when we do that, we're going to probably come to a realization of, oh, I see why they believe that. I get it now. You may not still believe what they believe, but at least you understand where they're coming from. And that's going to be a big thing in any kind of relationship that we have. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a huge difference or division. My husband and I, we have differences all the time, little ones. And we have to sit and talk and get to know each other on that level. And what does it feel like to you? Is it that big of a deal? Yes, it is to me, not to you. So it's constant, trying to relate with each other and finding ways to understand each other that'll help break those attitudes that we have about our differences.
Thank you. I totally agree. And I absolutely love what you said about understanding their why, understanding why they're doing certain things. It's, for example, we just talked about domestic violence, and we have to acknowledge that we don't know everything. We may think we know everything, but we don't. Right. I sometimes see posts going around like, oh, that person's buying donuts are not essential right now. And I'm like, well, maybe if that person, because we know that statistically domestic violence has gone up because of COVID-19, if that person is dealing with, physical, sexual, verbal abuse or violence at home, right? And, they have seen a trigger that, they know the person's about to get violent and they need to get out of the house. In that moment, for that person, the danger to their physical safety just became far more imminent than the a concept of a virus that's going around. And so walking down to the store to get that one donut, maybe what's saving their mental sanity, maybe what's saving them physically, maybe that's saving them in who knows how many other ways. So we really we really need to step back and understand that we don't understand everything. So I think that is the end of my questions.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Ashley.
It was about what you said about understanding differences, Rachel. How does that apply, and how do you recommend it applies spousal relationships?
That's a great question, because we could all have that same question. And to me, again, I look at it as, it could be a challenge, but when the two are coming together to connect and work and flow through those differences, there's going to be a stronger relationship in the end. And so, I mean, even for my husband and I, that's exactly that view that we view it as. Okay, we can get feelings built up even. Okay, we notice feelings are coming. Let's talk later, because our ultimate goal is to come out stronger in this. Mm-hmm. So, how can we hear each other on a deeper level? And for husbands and wives especially, because what might really hurt me emotionally for my husband, he's like, what are you talking about? Just blow it off. Just leave. Just
oh my God, it. Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, right? And so there's that emotional and logic thinking that when we sit down and we actually work together with the end goal in mind, that we're going to accomplish something out of talking. You have to be on the same page, first of all. If one's like, yeah, let's just hurry and get this over with, I'm still stuck on my point of view, you make no sense, then you're not going to go anywhere. It takes two people. But when that's your goal, is to come out of this with understanding each other. So sometimes we even have to rest in, that was way too logic for me, hun, but I get it, and I'm just going to let that be. And sometimes it'll take weeks of us talking over certain things, emotional and logic sense. But then our goal is working together to find that solution. So hearing him out, why do you think of it this way? What is it about that? And then how can I try to relate how I feel about it as well, so we can bring them both to the table and find that solution that'll fit both of our needs the best that we can. And it won't always work out, but we're going to try everything we can.
Right. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
It does. It's kind of stuff we kind of know to do. It's just that how soon do we give up? Or how late in the game do you give up? I don't know.
So when you say give up, does that mean give up on that conversation per se?
That's too much information. I won't go too deep into it. Won't go into a coaching session right now, but
okay.
Well, so yeah, kind of both.
I would say again, and then when we're training our volunteers as good communicators and connectors, and we're listening to so many needs and feelings and emotions and things that are going on in our life, never mind just with our client friends, but with our own life. Yeah. You have to be self-aware. How do I feel right now about this? What is going on in my head? Why do I keep thinking this? Right? And I think Fatima said about researching, Google things. It's obviously it's plated there because they know the questions that you're going to ask. So they're going to throw all these answers at you. Why not go and look at some possible answers? Talk to a friend, and pay for counseling and go and, invest in getting to know, why do I feel this way? Why do I operate this way? Mm-hmm. And that'll help you be able to communicate better and ultimately set your certain boundaries and different things that you need to be able to make that decision.
Okay, I get the why. I have a second part to that question. When someone resists answering why, what do you do?
So when you're trying to get someone to talk to you and they're not talking?
Well, when they're already talking, but they don't want to answer, they may not even know how to answer a why.
Absolutely. Okay. That's a great point. And so the first thing, and probably the only thing that I would recommend that you could do at that time, is just explain to them how it makes you feel. Right. That, what their participation in trying to understand or themselves and try to relate themselves to you. This is how it makes me feel when I don't know you this way. I feel sad, or I feel upset right now, or I feel stuck when I'm trying to get something from you and I can't get it. Is there any way that you can do some self-searching to try to meet me with this? Right. Something in that regard.
And that works. Would that work in the professional sense too, in the sense of when you ask why and they're not able to tell the why because they may not really know the why, to their emotions, does that work on a professional level too, do you think?
Absolutely. And another step that we could take, another level, is sometimes leaving tools around that may be able to help them decipher for their own self what it is. And I like to do that under the radar, not like, oh, I'm going to give you this to help you figure this out. Sometimes it's a matter of leaving a brochure or dropping a link somewhere, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize I left that there. But in hopes that they might pick it up.
Right.
And that's all that you can do. If someone isn't willing to share, or they just don't know how, then they also, again, have to be willing to try to find out for themselves.
Right.
We can help empower them by just dropping little things, but and obviously acting as an example.
Mm-hmm. I would like to ask, how would you approach people who either shut down when there's a problem and they just want to bury the problem by ignoring it and they won't communicate? Me, I'm an active communicator, and sometimes I run into that as a problem. So two-part question, that, and also how to get engagement from people who are reserved and they want to connect with people and they want to make close friends, and if you know them on a personal level, that's what you know about them, and yet they can't come out of themselves very fast, and then you might give them an opportunity and they won't show up for it, and then they'll be hurt, of course, if they don't have many people in their circle. What advice would you give to that? Because that's sometimes what I come up against, and I try my best to help. Can only do so much.
Absolutely, you're 100% right. And when I'm talking to employers, this is a big question that comes up. How do I engage the team? How do I deal with all the differences? How do I meet them? And I think the biggest thing that I end up conversating with them about is, well, how is this making you feel? Because sometimes, the people will be able to feel this from you, and it might even cause them more anxiety, and they're going to be more reserved because they don't want to disappoint you. So, what are we doing it for? And, that's the biggest thing. As people like ourselves here, that I feel like we're all have that same capacity of wanting to help people. And we can use this communication to help people. But then if they're not willing, or maybe it's, looking at it like they're not ready, right? So maybe they're just not ready, and we have to be okay with that. And they may feel those vibes right away and just chillax a little bit and try to step out on their own a little bit. And then the other part, again, it's just dropping little bits here and there. It's a day-by-day process. When I work with people who are reserved in that kind of way, I check in with them constantly, and I ask them, and I make sure it's totally transparent what I'm doing. Hey, this is what I feel like based on you're requesting that I come and help you. This is what I'm going to do, and this is why. And let me know what you feel about it, and think about it. So if we're working together, then they're having more input, and then they're going to start noticing on their own that they're doing it, not us doing it for them. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Who is it?
Smith.
Oh, hey, Smith. Yes.
Sorry, I got kicked out by network. Yeah, my question goes thus, how can one build a stronger human connection? Because I didn't really get that part while you were explaining it.
Right. Let me see if I understood your question right. You asked how to build a stronger human connection.
Yes.
Okay, Rachel, did you want to take that first?
Yeah, that's a great question, Smith. So the thing is that we all have is called human needs. And when we feel a need, we create a bond. So if you're looking to connect with someone on a deeper level, find out what their need is, emotionally, mentally, physically. Feel that need and watch that connection flourish. And it'll only get better and deeper every time that you do it. So the more money you put in the bank, the more funds you have. Does that make sense? So basically, when we're filling each other's needs, we're building connection. So when you feel a need, you create a bond.
When you create a need, you create a bond. I love it.
When you feel a need, you create a bond.
When you feel a need, you create a bond.
Right. So you're building connection, and you're also building a trust between the two, so that you're opening up an avenue to be able to connect deeper too. Because the more that you build that trust, the more someone will open up to connect with you as well.
Okay. I still have another question.
Go ahead, ask.
Okay. Is there any known way, like a model, which someone can really apply in the way of creating connection between people?
So the question is there a model that we can apply to creating connection with people?
Yeah, get to know that person that you're trying to connect with, whether it's a client or a family or a friend, getting to know them. So sometimes even when people talk to me in conversation, I'll take note when they're talking about their dog, Ralph. I'll walk away, okay, their dog's name is Ralph, and the son's name is Sam. And next time when I'm talking to them, even just walking by, oh, how's Ralph doing? Immediately they're going to be stunned with the fact that I remembered their dog's name, or I remembered their son Sam's name. So they're automatically going to feel a flow of connection to me. And they'll probably want more because they realize that, hey, I'm important to somebody. Someone is giving me attention and time and specific energy, which makes them feel special. And now I've built an avenue to be able to connect with them.
And I will add to that, and I'm gonna say, learn to remember people's names. Like, you know, a lot of people, you know, say, you know, oh, I'm so bad at remembering names. The more you say it, the more it's going to get ingrained in your subconscious that you're bad at remembering names. So you want to say that I'm getting better at remembering names, but you really like remembering people's names, especially if you even met them once. Like, take a piece of paper, write down their name, and like Rachel said, write a little detail about them, and then follow up with them within 24 hours. Send them an email, send them a text message, and say, hey, you know, so and so, like Jim, how are you doing? You know, how is little Ralphie doing? Like that. Like there's no hard and fast formula. I at least that I know of, to connect with people. You know, connecting with everyone is very different, but I think what Rachel said previously, like when you fill a need, you create a bond. I think that is, if there was a formula, I would say that would be a great one. You know. Yeah. All right, anything else?
I had a question. Sorry.
Yes. You go ahead.
I get a lot of questions.
Good.
But I didn't, okay, I heard you on that. I heard you, but I then took it further and I said, if you expect that connection will come first and then you choose to fill a need, that doesn't work. But that's what a lot of people do. They expect you to try to connect with them and then they will choose whether or not to fill a need. So how do you manage that?
So to me, that sounds like there has to be trust.
Okay.
Because someone's not going to open up, and you're not going to be able to. It's going to be more difficult to find out about them if they don't trust you with information about them.
Okay.
So I would suggest building that trust, and also pay attention and let them know you're paying attention. You know, I noticed that when I say this, you behave that way. Can you explain more about that to me? Like, what does that mean, or what are you hearing there for you to behave that way? And that's gonna let them feel like, wow, okay, they're paying attention to me. You know, they want to know.
Okay. Good. Thank you. It's almost like, in a way, you're kind of almost fulfilling their need and then you're getting a need fulfilled at the same time. Right?
Oh my gosh, I love it. Smart. That is exactly how it works. It's just a circle that when we're connecting with them, they're now connecting with us. And now we've built this circle of human connection. And that's exactly, if we picture connection, that's what it is. It's a circle of operation. We're all operating together.
Cool.
I have a comment. I like to think of connection in my own life as like, I try to act like a switchboard. So I meet person A, and person A needs this from another person who they don't know. And I happen to know the person that they need. I like to connect the two people. And that makes them happier, it grows their circle, and it makes me happier, and they're happier with me, and we're all a shared group then. So
Yeah.
I realized there's so many different interactions recently. Hey, I kind of act like a switchboard. So
absolutely, and that's exactly what I do in my own community as well, Kristen. And so people refer to me as the hub.
Yeah.
So that's a good word that would represent you as well. You like to make those connections, and so you're looking. It sounds to me like you're listening to key things about people to better connect them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity, Fatima, to connect with all these beautiful people, and thank you for what you're doing. You're doing a good thing here. I appreciate you.
Thank you.